Welcome to Boulder Rotary Club on April 24th. This is we're getting so used to these virtual meetings, I'm losing track of how many we've had, but I think this is our fifth. And we have a good program today. And to commemorate that, I want to welcome one of my favorite voices in our club to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the four-way test. Jim Williams, please unmute yourself and lead us.
Please join me in pledging allegiance to our country and our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the four-way test of the things we think, we say, we do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you very much, Jim. It's good to hear your voice again. So before we get to the program, we're going to try something new. You may recall Michael introducing the G and Gs. Well, one of the Gs, Grace Gam, is going to be inducted as a Red Badge member today, and she will be our club's first ever virtual Red Badge inductee. And Shoni Khan will be our first ever virtual Zoom Red Badge inductor. Shoni, please unmute and introduce us to our new Red Badge member who was supposed to be inducted on March 13th when we had to cancel.
Great. Is Grace on here somewhere, I assume? I hope. Okay. Well, anyway.
Oh, yes.
Okay. All right. First of all, Grace, she's volunteered with the Boulder County CASA, Voices for Children. She as a volunteer membership on the CU College of Music Advisory Board. She has done writing for the Jefferson County Humanist Monthly Newsletter. She and her husband, Gordon, are members of Beth Ami, a local congregation for humanistic Judaism. She grew up in Boulder, Colorado. She has 3 siblings, and 2 of them live in Boulder, where her parents also live. She has a wish, and her wish is to become more skilled in advanced techniques for cultivating mental well-being. And with the current situation of COVID-19, there is likely to be a growing need for that. There'll be more on Grace, I think, when we are back in our real-time environment. But for now, I just would like to wish you all to welcome Grace as a new member on the Red Badge membership.
Welcome, Grace. All right, we can start looking into our program. And as you probably know, today's program concerns the United Nations, which was founded on October 24th, 1945, officially. But the term United Nations was coined more than 3 years before then by Franklin Delano Roosevelt during World War II, when the United States and 26 other nations pledged and signed the Declaration of United Nations to continue fighting together against the Axis powers. Initially, there were 51 member states in the UN. Today, there are 193. And like Rotary, the UN promotes peace, promotes health and sanitation, and promotes healthcare. So I will turn this over to Randy Butler to provide an introduction to our two speakers today. Randy.
Actually, I think Gary was going to do that.
Oh,
So,
Gary? That's okay with me.
I'm going to introduce my sponsor, an awesome individual and great friend, Gary Kahn, who will introduce our speakers.
You're muted, Gary.
As John just mentioned, Rotary actually has a long connection, both working for peace and to the United Nations. Many of you do not know about that, but this is the UN 75th anniversary, and one of our speakers, Rotarian Cynda Arsenault, along with Zuza, Bohley, will introduce us to what the UN is doing this year in honor of its anniversary. And Cynda will start us off with a history of Rotary's connection with the UN, and then Zuza who is on the board of directors of the UN Association in Boulder County. She is also, I think, chairperson of the Sister City Alliance and many other things. She will share with us what the UN 75 Dialogue Project is, and let us experience a little bit of that ourselves. So please welcome Cynda and Zuza.
Okay, great. Fred, can you get the first slide up, please? So, and before I actually begin, I want to say that I came into Rotary very reluctantly. Gary worked on me for years and years. And, but now, the more I learn, the prouder I am to be a part of this organization. And in particular, because of the people that I've met and all the work that gets done. So as I said, today we're going to talk about the connection between the Rotary and the UN. Next slide. So as you know, Rotary has 6 areas of focus: peace and conflict prevention, disease, water, maternal health, education, and economic development. And I would posit that actually the bottom 5 are a critical part of us getting to peace. Next slide, please. And as John mentioned, the United Nations has several areas of focus. The primary one being maintaining international peace and security, but also protecting human rights, delivering humanitarian aid, promoting sustainable development, and upholding international law. So you can see that there's a lot of overlap with what Rotary does. Next slide, please. So a little bit of the history. Back in 1917, at the end of World War I, Paul Harris said, "The road to war is well paved, the road to peace is a wilderness." And so Rotary began looking at that, and 4 years later, they actually incorporated peace building into Rotary's constitution for the advancement of international understanding, goodwill, and peace through a world of fellowship of business and professional persons united in the ideal of service. At a Rotary convention in 1940, they wrote a resolution for the freedom, justice, truth, sanctity of the pledged word, and respect for human rights. This was the beginning and the foundation of the development of the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And then again in 1942, a Rotary conference focused on promoting education, science, and culture. And this became the foundation that led to the establishment of the United Nations Education, Science, and Culture Organization. Next slide, please. And so then that led us to 1945, when Rotary was one of the few civil society organizations that was present at the final signing of the Charter of the UN in San Francisco. 49 Rotarians had contributed to the writing of that charter. In 1960, Rotary established peace parks, peace cities, and peace poles. And today there's more than 60 peace cities around the world. And maybe one day we can get Boulder to be one of those cities. In 2002 was the beginning of the Rotary Peace Centers, which are in 6 universities around the world that provide a 2-year master's peace and conflict resolution program. And there have been over 1,300 graduates from over 80 countries, all supported by Rotarians. In 2012, the International Rotary began Rotary Action Groups for Peace. Next slide, please. And you're going to hear a lot more about this group in the video that we're going to show. But the primary question that they are asking is, what if we started thinking about Rotary as more than a collection of service clubs and started thinking of ourselves as a global peace building force? So while he's starting the video here, I'd like you to think about the connection in this video and the next one you're going to see, which is inviting us to dream. What if? How can we make the world better? Okay, take it away, Fred.
Let's be honest, the world can seem scary. Violence, poverty, disease, corruption, pollution. The problems just seem too overwhelming, too big. You are just one person, right? Not if you are a Rotarian. You are part of a club, part of a district, part of an international network of 1.2 million Rotarians in 35,000 clubs in 200 nations. This makes you part of the largest and most impactful service organization in the world. As Rotarians, you have roughly the same human power as the world's most powerful militaries, but you are woven into the fabric of the community. Rotary as a global organization connects you with a network of passionate community leaders focused on positive change through service and the 4-way test. Rotary's 6 areas of focus strengthen that network into a powerful force for peace. So, what if we started thinking about Rotary as more than a collection of service clubs and just started thinking of ourselves as a global peace-building force? What if together we wage peace? Just imagine Rotarians building a world beyond war. But first, some background. Did you know that we are living in the most peaceful period in human history? Wars are less common and kill less people. Violence against women and children is the lowest in history. Homicides have decreased dramatically in much of the world. Genocide and other civilian killings are less prevalent. The number of democracies is increasing every year. People are living longer, healthier lives. Girls are getting a better education. And human rights are recognized in much of the world as a cornerstone of basic governance. The world is not falling apart as the media might lead us to believe. In fact, measurable trends support the emergence of a global peace system that today rivals the global war system. Trends that led to the development of international institutions like the United Nations aimed at preventing war. Trends about the protection of civilians. Trends proving nonviolence is more effective than armed resistance. Trends toward the proliferation of peace education. Trends favoring the economics of peace over the economics of war. And trends leading to the flourishing of international law, treaties, and courts. So what if we changed our mindset as Rotarians to match the current realities, the current science? The good news is, Rotary already set us up for success with the 6 areas of focus. When you build economic opportunity for communities, Rotary builds peace. When you provide education where education is not available, Rotary builds peace. When you provide clean water and sanitary conditions, Rotary builds peace. When you improve on the health of women and children, Rotary builds peace. When you prevent and treat disease, Rotary builds peace. And when you focus specifically on peace and conflict prevention and resolution as a cornerstone of your club's activities, Rotary directly builds peace. We are this close to ending polio, but what's next? For over 100 years, Rotarians have been advancing understanding, goodwill, and peace through their service work. Now with the peace area of focus and network of over 1,000 Rotary Peace Fellows, we're ready to take it to the next level. Peace building is about community building. We're ready to train leaders, including youth, to build peace and to prevent and mediate conflict. Convene people and resources to increase the peace-building impact of Rotary service projects in all areas of focus. Empower Rotarians everywhere to create sustainable peace building in communities and regions affected by conflict, and more. You are a Rotarian, and you build peace. This is your call to action. Start a peace committee in your club. Volunteer to be the peace chair for your district. It is a Rotary-supported position. Support the Rotary Peace Centers by recruiting qualified candidates. You can lead your club to engage in at least one service project annually that promotes nonviolence or raises understanding of the root causes of violence. You can start by joining a Rotarian Action Group. Through the Rotarian Action Group for Peace Hub Map, you can connect with other Rotarians and peace committees. Tap into the expertise of our Global Peace Fellow alumni community through the new Peace Hub map. So, the world isn't that scary after all, because peace is you, and you are Rotary. Go wage peace.
Okay. So now it is my distinct pleasure to introduce our speaker for today, Zuza Bohley. She is a very busy lady. She is on the boards of UNA Boulder County, the Jalapa Friendship City, Boulder Council for International Visitors, the World Mind Nature Immersion Schools, Women's Collaborative of Boulder County, and World Singing Day. Also chair of the UNA Sustainability Committee and the Boulder Sister City Alliance. And many of us have had interactions with her through that. And she's also the Deputy Director of Americas for Conservation and the Arts. And so as you listen to her today, I hope that you can be thinking about what is Rotary's contribution and how can we continue to work for a better world. Hey, Zuza, take it away.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Fred, would you put up my slideshow, please? First of all, I want to thank you for inviting me here to share this opportunity with you that in this year, the United Nations is turning 75. Next slide. And to mark this anniversary, the UN will launch global conversations on how to shape our future together. Next slide, please. The results of these global consultations that the UN is doing this year will be shared with the United Nations at the General Assembly in September 2020. And beyond that, UNA Boulder will share these results and analytics with local and state policymakers. Next slide, please. These global consultations is actually the second time in history that the United Nations is asking for input from civilians. The first time it was between 2013 and 2015 with the My World survey. Perhaps several of you have participated in that. You see here on the bottom left, one of those surveys where people were asked to select 6 priorities for themselves and their families out of 17 that they wanted to keep or hold for the next 15 years and focus on. And so this My World survey actually surveyed more than 2 million people in 192 countries. And it was really important because the results of that actually moved the Millennium Development Goals to become Sustainable Development Goals. Next slide, please. So here I show a couple of results. Overall, worldwide, education was considered the most impactful priority that was #1 for all countries, for everybody surveyed. Here you see 3 different top 6 from the surveys. The first one is worldwide, the second one shows USA national priorities, and then Colorado priorities. UNA Boulder at the time became partner with the My World Survey because I was just recently during that time elected as the regional coordinator for the United Nations Association, and I decided it was very important for us to have an idea of how Colorado perhaps was different from national thinking. And as a matter of fact, this My World Survey, I use that a lot in my advocacy meetings with elected officials, shows that Colorado beats at a different heartbeat because climate change, action on climate change and gender equality were in the top 6 priorities, while nationwide they were more at the bottom. And in order to move action on climate change and get gender equality, you do need to have partnerships and work and collaborate with others. That's why at that time, the strategic plan that I developed together with other United Nations Association members was to focus on those 3 priorities: climate on action change, gender equality through partnerships for the goals. As a result of that, within those years, since 2015, I became more active in the Boulder Sister City Alliance. I was already the president of Friendship City Projects, the first sister city with Jalapa, Nicaragua, but I became more engaged. I was one of the facilitators to establish the Women's Collaborative of Boulder County that brings together more than 40 different organizations locally to move basically the needle on ordinances for that benefit women and families. And I became active with Americas for Conservation and the Arts, that is most known to people through the Americas Latino Eco Festival, because we bring advocates from across the Americas together, from North, Central, and South America for the annual festival. Next slide, please. I have been working with the Peace Building Committee of the Rotary Club, and just recently I found this pyramid of happiness with the Sustainable Development Goals, and I found it very insightful because it basically shows that you can divide the goals into spiritual, ecological, and then people goals. The Peace Building Committee had as a goal holding peace and justice as their primary focus, then includes everything below. And that's the same for the partnerships with UNA Boulder. So I thought it was just interesting to look at how things will trickle down if you have the mental focus on something spiritual. Next slide, please. So today I'm invited here to do one of these UN 75 global consultations. And so next slide, please. I did one short consultation with the Peace Building Committee, and some of the results and analytics from that first initial consultation then will be part of today's focus as well. I would like to show you a short video clip that is an invitation and shares a little bit more about this conversation that we will be having. You can start the video now. Thank you.
What if there was, I mean, there's plenty of what ifs.
What if we didn't have corruption,
persecuciones o guerras,
HIV,
ageism,
discrimination,
stigma.
ماذا لو فهم الجميع في العالم معنى أن تكون مهاجراً بعيداً عن أهلك، بعيداً عن ناسك، بعيداً عن وطنك؟
I always think, what if my home just disappears? What if my whole country disappears? And what if my daughter never gets to see it?
What if the world was cleaner?
What if my child could grow up in a world where climate change wasn't a constant threat and where cities were pollution-free?
أمنيتي لها خاصة بعدل الفرق بين المدينة وبرات المدينة.
Tous les jours, on voit les villes grandir, on voit un exode rural des populations, et cela vient avec beaucoup de problèmes, des problèmes de logement, des problèmes d'insalubrité, des problèmes de santé publique.
By 2050, globally, there will be more people over the age of 60 than children.
So we need to plan for age-friendly cities.
Но это единственным образом можно решить. Один шаг за шагом.
There's so many people that have nothing, and there's so few people that have a lot. And you think about inequality. I mean, it's so important to understand that we need a world that is more equal.
What if we lived in a world where all that mattered was how we cared about each other?
We're all deserving of the same kind of care and love and health and education. And these are just all basic necessities that we should all have access to.
世界上的贫富差距应该可以减少，而且将会有更多的工作机会给新的一代。
New technology can do things that are completely undreamt of. What if it was used for bringing education to rural areas?
Tout ce que je suis devenu, c'est vraiment cette éducation que j'ai reçue à la base. Et je pense que si moi je peux accéder à cette éducation, tous les enfants du monde doivent avoir accès à ça aussi.
如果全世界一起合作，打造一个共享的网络空间，那么所有人都能够参与数字经济。
¿Qué tal si en el mundo nos escucháramos?
When we bring our minds together, those ideas become innovation.
I think my only what if out of many what ifs would be, what if every young person was empowered to reach their full potential?
What if the world was a more secure place for young people like me?
Мы все в этом мире временные. Y у нас есть путь выбрать.
Cuando digo que hace falta solidaridad entre países, también es solidaridad entre las personas.
What if all the nations understand that we are so powerful? We should be the instrument of peace. We should be the peace.
What if leaders and communities would understand that they should use dialogue and not conflict to address their differences?
Si c'est possible.
Do I think this is possible? Yes, because I'm an optimist.
I'm an optimist.
We need your opinions, your strategies, your ideas for us to be able to deliver better for the people of the world that we must serve.
We can change this game.
It is absolutely essential that you all join the conversation.
Everybody has to contribute. We don't have an option.
Everybody needs to talk. We need to come together.
What would the world be like?
Thank you. To start out our conversation here, we will actually do 4 different polls so that we also can share the analytics of those polls with you. Our first poll is about envisioning 2045, and on the 100th anniversary of the UN. Do you think the world will be better off, the same, or worse off? Please mark what you believe and then submit. This is pretty amazing. I love this, Fred. Earlier we moved the analytics to do it later, but I really like it right after our poll. So I think, did everybody finish polling? Yeah, so we can see that the majority think that the world will be better off, and then about almost 20% think it's the same, and 20% think that might be worse. The Peace Building Committee also was strongly believed that the world would be better off if we all put our efforts together and we work in collaboration. So that is something that I wanted to share. So our second poll, for the next polls, we actually have several items that we would like you to choose 3 from. And the next question is, what would you most like to see in 2045? An effective United Nations, an inclusive and committed multi-ethnic society, which everyone has an opportunity to contribute, a simpler and healthier lifestyle compatible with the environment, participatory democracy, no person without food and shelter and healthcare, greater empathy and awareness of our global community, women's equality, and cooperative governance of outer space. Please submit your votes. Did everybody vote? Then we can end. Okay, then we can end the polling. And as you can see, the priority for all of us that are sitting here together is that no person should be without food, shelter, and healthcare. And if you come to think about it, all of these are important, but within those, giving just the choice of 3 priorities really creates a focus of the group. And overall, these polls, as well as this conversation that we will be having, will perhaps aid your club to really create this strategic plan for the future. Let's go to the next poll. And this poll asks, what are the main obstacles and challenges to this vision? Is it climate change, autocratic governments, polarization and extremism, inequality, threat of nuclear war, technology, for good or bad, or injustice? And please submit. Has everybody finished answering? It looks like. Okay. So here our main, the main obstacle is seen as polarization and extremism with 64%, followed closely by inequalities, and then climate change and autocratic governments. So our last polling question will be, what advice do you have for the Secretary General or other elected officials? And we would like you to choose 3. These are things that the Peace Building Committee has come up with. More women in leadership positions, a standing peace force, listen with an open mind, create more opportunities for dialogue, mediation, and teamwork, build a great nonpartisan diplomatic community, bring all voices to the table, build relationships, and get money and corruption out of politics. Please submit your answer. So I think we're completed with the polling, or so the most important advice was to create more opportunities for dialogue, mediation, and teamwork at almost 60%, followed closely by both get money and corruption out of politics, as well as more women in leadership. And then also build great nonpartisan diplomatic community. Thank you for polling. I would like now, I think I would like the next slide. And the following one. So the world needs more people who care, and I would like you to think about what can Rotarians do, what can we do as Rotarians, and put these things into the chat, while then Randall will review those and perhaps read some off, or call on people to give their opinion. Please type your answers into the chat box. And when you speak, limit your answer to maximally a minute. We only have 5 minutes left in our conversation here. I move it over to Randall. Randall, you want to come on?
Yeah, thank you, Zuza. I was talking and realized, no, I need to unmute first. Yeah, thank you, Zuza. What a great presentation, and thank you, Cynda. And I'm monitoring. Boy, we've got a lot of ideas coming in. So let's look at some of those. And what I'm going to try to do is see if there aren't some common threads, and then I may call on someone to speak up. So, Marcia, why don't would you mind unmuting and take maybe 30 seconds to up to a minute to talk more about promoting restorative conversations?
Sure. Restorative conversations, meaning conversations where there is no harm done, where people can mutually agree to share harms that have been done and work out ways to repair those harms. And this could be in between any types of relationships.
Thank you, Marcia.
You're welcome.
One of the themes that came up in both some of the questions for the Q&A, I'm going to pull those in now because both I think Chad Stam and Bill Rubin have talked about youth. Bill, could you say a little more about working with youth and creating empathy, engagement, and leadership? Bill Rubin?
Yeah, so I'm involved with the RILA program, both with middle school kids, high school kids here in the Rocky Mountain region, and creating a sense of connection for youth with other youth and with the larger community is actually key to the future in my view. So that's kind of my focus.
Thank you. Let me see what some others. Michael, why don't you speak to creating a hunger-free zone within a 30-mile radius of the club?
Well, I think the lesson that we too often ignore in Polio Plus is that thousands of Rotarians trekked through the woods to deliver product that they couldn't afford to purchase. And so it was a world project in which at one point people were dealing with folks in their neighborhood that needed help, and they were able to deliver help because Rotary made it possible. And there is nothing that drives people to desperation more than the hunger they see in their family. And so if we're going to build peace, there is no peace that's going to be built in a world in which people can go to bed hungry thinking the world hates them. That's the idea.
And Valentine, our exchange student, I'm glad to see that you have joined us today, and I'm wondering, I think that maybe you've had a question that you had raised also about involving youth. Would you be willing to speak to that?
Yeah, sure. I think it's important that we think about the next generation. For example, going about climate change, that the people who come after us are in the same or have the same world as we have it now.
Thank you, Valentine. Well, I think that we've hit our time limit for this segment, and I'd like to call on Sam Pottinger, who's the founding chair of the Peace Builder Committee for the club, and was, I believe, was very active in making us one of the first peace clubs that you could see on that map if you go to the Rotarian Action Group for Peace. But Sam, would you please respond to our speakers?
You bet. Thank you, Randy and Cynda, and especially to Zuza. It's a great program. You, Zuza, representing the United Nations, have shown us that peace is possible. And Rotary is definitely proud of our relationship with the UN. Along with others, we're creating a culture of peace. Thank you so much for all the things that you do and for encouraging each one of us to participate in this global peace building effort. I love the technology that we're using. Together we can make this happen. For example, Zuza, over 30 years ago, Rotary, as a founding member of the Global Polio Eradication Initiative with the World Health Organization and the Center for Disease Control, and more recently with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, we have reduced cases of polio by more than 99.9%. You know, if all eradication efforts stopped today, within 10 years, polio could paralyze as many as 200,000 children each year. So the work isn't over. Zuza, Bohley, Boulder Rotary will donate in your name 100 doses of the polio vaccine to rid polio in the world forever. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sam. And I would want to point out that when I was a baby Rotarian, Sam Pottinger was also, if not a founder, he seemed like a founder to me of our Preserve Planet Earth Committee. So thank you again for joining us from Florida, Sam. We are going to continue this week with our Coping with COVID-19 segment led by Bill Anderson.
Hi, everyone. Happy Friday. This week, our Coping with COVID segment is about how can we be of service during the pandemic. For many members of Boulder Rotary Club, volunteering and doing good in our local community and the world at large is a tremendous source of joy and satisfaction. But while we are subject to the stay-at-home directive, what can we do to give back? Obviously, money is a great way to help, but what if we want to give time or talent in addition to treasure? Before we dive into our segment on service opportunities, just a reminder that the RIB is a great source for many of the ideas that have been shared about getting through this time. Thanks to Cassidy and to Chad Stam for all the work that they've done to share that information with us. And please remember that your ideas are useful to the rest of the Boulder Rotary Club community. And so to the extent that you can share those either through links in the RIB or during these Coping with COVID segments, we can all benefit from the information you have. So let's talk for a moment about ways to provide community service during this time. First, we have opportunities available already within our club, particularly through the new Community Service Committee. Mike Brady is with us, as is Lena Kotke. Mike, can you start off and tell us a little bit about the opportunities that are available through the Community Service Committee?
Yeah, and can I step back for a second and just talk about the Community Service Committee for like 30 seconds or 45 seconds? I mean, what's great about our particular club is when you have a passion for something, if you have a passion for environment, you can create a committee. If you have a passion for literacy, you can create a literacy committee and run with it. And so the Community Service Committee is really there to ensure that as a club, we're really keeping that forefront in our minds to help facilitate that. People who are already doing great things and running with things within the club, how can we support them and get the word out to all of the club? And so the first thing that we did about a month ago was we, of course, reached out to our members, particularly those that are not attending the Zoom meetings and those that are maybe not opening up the newsletter. So to make sure that they're well taken care of. We had an incredible turnout this past Saturday. And I know that Russ Porter is going to talk about that later on, but Sally Brown, she had a passion for feeding, the hungry. So many people are in a bad spot right now economically. And so we had a great program with Sister Carmen. We also had a letter, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in just a second. We had a letter writing ability campaign in order to help those that are in assisted living or long-term care. And so a number of you wrote those letters. Right now, we're still waiting for them to kind of respond back to us. So that's not a need right now, but that's one of the things that we've done. On May 9th, I'm just going to let you know that we're going to have another great opportunity to, with Sister Carmen, hopefully, to raise money again and to raise food and to come by. It's going to be in Lafayette. More details to follow, but Sally Brown, once again, is taking a huge leadership role in that going forward, and certainly there's going to be more information. One of the things that's happened over the last, 3 or 4 weeks, and I think that we would all agree with this, is each week new information is coming out. And so new opportunities are coming forth. So while right now we're really focused on the next kind of drive, the success that we had with the 3 clubs that are in Boulder from last Saturday and repeating that, if you have a passion yourself, if you want to email me and we can kind of talk about how that might be integrated into what all the club is doing and how to move it forward. So I'm not sure if that was an answer to your question. I know that Lena really would like to talk about our Feeding the Front Lines, what we did there, and a great opportunity there to to donate and go towards that, and with matching from the Boulder Rotary Club Foundation.
Thanks, Mike. As you know, Sally Brown, our president-elect, also initiated a project for us to contribute to the program of Boulder Community Health called Feeding the Front Lines. And this is a program that provides 300 meals every evening to frontline workers at the hospital. And it has been a success, so much so that they have expanded it now to feeding the police force and firefighters. So it's a terrific ongoing program. We promoted it 2 weeks ago. Sally introduced the idea. And within the first week, we raised enough money for the first meal to feed up 300 people on second shift at BCH. And in the second week, we have raised almost enough with the match from the Boulder Rotary Club Foundation, BRCF, to provide second and third meals. So we're $125 short of what we need to provide that third meal. And I'm sure we'll get there easily. And I'd like to encourage us all, if you've been thinking that this is something you wanted to do and you haven't gotten around to writing a check yet, you can send a check to Michael Weatherwax, our Boulder Rotary Club Foundation treasurer. His office address is in the rib. And I know I haven't written my check yet, but I'm going to do it right after this meeting. And let's see if we can't get to 4 meals. It's really a tribute to our club that so many people responded so quickly. Again, we have $2,875 raised for members with a $1,500 match from the foundation. So we're at $4,375. Another $125 will get us to the third meal, and then maybe we can even take it further. So get out your checkbooks, and it's important during this time that those of us that are feeling relatively fortunate have an opportunity to help those that are out there on the front lines and are essential workers and are keeping people safe and are helping those that are most vulnerable and sick in our community now. So thanks to all of you who contributed, and let's keep going.
Thanks, Lena. So since we're on the topic today of the United Nations and international work, I'd like to start with some of the options that we have for participating in community service or volunteer work from home. And we will share this list with links to the various organizations that I'm about to mention. Amnesty International actually has a program called Amnesty Decoders, which is an innovative platform of volunteers from around the world that can use their computers or phones to help Amnesty International researchers sift through pictures, information, and documents. This is something that can completely be done while you're in isolation during the stay-at-home directive. Some other options. If you're looking to get involved locally, there's Help Colorado Now, which allows you to register to be a volunteer or volunteer leader in your community. If a volunteer need is identified, they'll contact you and utilize your skills. There's a tremendous number of options for volunteering through Help Colorado Now. Lots of different avenues to support the community. You know, we've done a lot of work over the last few years and had a number of programs on mental health issues. One of the things that you can use this time for is to become a crisis counselor. The crisis text line is a free 24/7 text line for people in crisis in the United States. The service is powered by volunteer crisis counselors who work remotely. Anywhere with a computer and secure internet connection works. Crisis counselors answer texts from people in crisis, bringing them from a hot moment to a cool calm through active listening, collaborative problem solving, and safety planning. it's a not insignificant commitment. Training takes about 30 hours and can be done, but it can be done from anywhere. The training is free, although it costs the organization over $1,000 per volunteer that they train. So they ask that if you do the training, you volunteer to provide 4 hours per week of support for a year, or about 200 hours of service. Other opportunities, if you're interested in helping blind or low vision individuals, Be My Eyes is a free app that connects blind and low vision people with sighted volunteers and company representatives for visual assistance through live video calls. And if you're a history buff, there are some opportunities for you as well. The Smithsonian has a program for digital volunteers. And this program helps make historical documents and biodiversity data more accessible. Join 1,806 volunteers, as they call it, to add more to the total 534,922 pages of field notes, diaries, ledgers, logbooks, currency proof sheets, photo albums, manuscripts, biodiversity specimen labels that have been collaboratively transcribed and reviewed since June of 2013. So those are just a few of the options that are out there in a wide range of interests and areas to get involved, even if you are stuck at home. I'm curious whether folks in the club have additional ideas, things that they've found, or perhaps questions they'd like to ask about volunteer opportunities.
My daughter has been volunteering with the Red Cross, giving blood.
And
so that might be an option.
That's a great point, Marcia. And John and Lena had actually posed a question that I think is a really good one about the availability of antibody testing. I don't know if folks know that, but obviously if one of the doctors on the line or medical professionals has any insight about that, I know that there's calls for particularly not just blood, but blood plasma from folks who have already had the virus and have antibodies. Any medical folks on here have any insight about that? Mr. Khan or Dr. Stern?
Boulder Community Health, sorry, Daryl Brown here on I-25. Boulder Community Health is starting to do some of that through our infectious disease clinic, okay, but we are just starting.
Children's Hospitals had an announcement that they're taking donations from people, I think, who have tested COVID-19 positive, that are recovered and want to try to donate plasma. They're doing some trials with that. So you can call Children's Hospital. I think the university also has started that.
Fantastic. I do see another reminder, not just the RIB, but also the chats. For those of you that are on the calls through Zoom and have access to the chat information, there's a wealth of information being shared among members in the chats. And so a number of suggestions have been included in here. I don't know whose name comes in as John's Heir, but SCORE is the volunteer arm of the Small Business Administration. Local businesses seek support with challenging issues and experience counts. So there's some information there. Deepu has some suggestions for ways to donate and get involved as well. I think we're running out of time for this segment now, but I would encourage those who have questions to stay on after we've finished the program, and continue to share information through the rib and through the chat so that we can all be better informed. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Bill. Picking up on Mike Simpson's idea of a 30-mile zone around Boulder Rotary Club, where there's no hunger, we took a big step last Saturday, and it was a collaborative effort between Boulder Rotary Club, Boulder Flatirons Club, and Boulder Valley Club, in which members of each club manned and womaned the drive-through drop-off of food, masked up, gloved up, and we have a guest today, Russ Porter from the Boulder Flatiron Club, who's going to tell us how we did. Russ?
Well, thank you for letting me come to your meeting today, and I greatly enjoyed the program. It's wonderful to see over 90 people gathered together in this Zoom format. This is a real pleasure for me to visit with you. I know some of you all met you at various times and met a lot of you last Saturday, but thank you for giving me the opportunity. I am a member of the Flatirons Club, and I am on the board of the Sister Carmen Center. For those of you who aren't as familiar with Sister Carmen, I want to just do a little introduction. The Sister Carmen Center is out here in Lafayette, and it is a community center. It is a non-religious, community-based organization that was started many years ago by a nun who was named Sister Carmen. A lot of times people think that we're connected with the Catholic Church. We are not, but it is an organization that at its beginning and a big part of its mission is to provide food to those who are food insecure. We also do additional work with resources for rent assistance, heating and electric and water bill assistant, and we try and work with people to help them bridge through case management from their situation to move beyond that with employment support and getting people to engage and move out of a poverty-centered environment to move on. But the reality is the stress that has come upon us has been pretty great right now with massive number of layoffs in a very short period of time. And I can't agree more that the real root of developing a peaceful society is where all people have reason to believe that their needs are being met. So really appreciated those thoughts about within 30 miles of every Rotary Club, if food insecurity was eliminated, that would go a long way to building a peaceful environment. We did great work last week, and my hat's off to your club and the other clubs that joined together to support this effort over at Boulder Community Health. A couple numbers I'll share with you, and numbers, they give a little bit of information, but they are not the heart of the information. So the number is that this collective effort, and thank you to Sally for really promoting this. I'm very grateful on behalf of the Sister Carmen Center, but 7,858 pounds of food was collected in one day, and that filled up a whole truck. So that was great. Now let me translate that into the human component. That amount of food we would project would feed 130 families for 2 weeks. So that's a pretty profound thing. And bear in mind, a family is a family unit. So there may be more than 100. There's clearly going to be more than 130 people in that, but that is the heart of the matter. Cash donations, because Sally was out there with a bucket and getting people to put money in. $5,500 was collected on that day, and that rolled in because of this effort. Sally actually texted me a couple nights ago and said, Russ, another check came in. What should I do with it? I said, are you home? I'll come get it right now. And so I went over there, and there was another check that she had. She's really, it's been fabulous to have that support come. So we serve ordinarily about 80 individuals come through, and that could be part of a family, that could be part of just an individual coming through to get assistance. So that has been kind of our norm. Usually it's about 40 that comes through. So we've kind of seen a doubling of that. Our highest high water mark has been right at 100, a little over 100. So that just shows you the rapid increase in what the service needs have been at the Sister Carmen Center. As far as the cash, what that goes to help, as I said, it's rent assistance, utilities. We at the Sister Carmen Center have given out in these grant situations over $100,000 since this COVID crisis has come upon us. So that's where we work with our personnel, our staff, to go over what the details are, make sure that the money is getting where it needs to go so that people aren't turned out of their home, or their prescriptions are purchased, or their bills are paid so that their utilities aren't turned off. So if you think about it, when you're in the middle of a pandemic, you don't want to be unable to get your prescriptions. It's just pretty simple with that. So I am very grateful. We are putting the plans together to redo this. We'll call it Food Drive 2.0. And we're looking to doing that on the 9th. So look for more information coming your way on that. I think this one may be in Lafayette. You don't need a passport to come out here. We really do appreciate that everybody has donated, and I can't thank you enough on behalf of the Sister Carmen Board. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Russ. Okay. Through a miracle of modern technology, Daryl and Sally Brown are going to present a MP4 video to us, even though they're in northern New Mexico. Cue it up.
Hit it.
Did something funny happen?
Yeah.
You'd never know it.
For the love of God, do all the road construction now.
It's really us together in Boulder Rotary.
Damn, I hate electronic meetings. But a few observations.
Number 1, those are giant hands.
Number 2, President-elect. Pay attention. Pay attention.
Number 3, don't forget about the virus and don't touch your face.
Don't touch your face. Oh, you just did.
Dr. Lippitz, pay attention.
Darla Sheath, what the hell is that?
Dang, Hank, what room are you in?
That is a beautiful home. Insert hand washing lecture here.
If you're getting a refund, maybe you could donate it to the Boulder Rotary Club Foundation. The details are in the rib.
Life has become complicated and sometimes dangerous now. Boulder Rotary Club is a community, and in the last few weeks, members have asked, how can I help? The Caring Committee is routing and creating a way for members to help members. Remember, we are a community. We are a family. Boulder Rotary Club.
Here are a couple of pictures of the Meals on Wheels vehicle donated by Boulder Rotary, including funds from individual members and the Boulder Rotary Club Foundation. Looks great. Russ gave you the totals on the Sister Carmen event, but boy, we can accomplish a lot when all 3 clubs in Boulder get together. And we just wanted to thank everybody who came out and participated, and we wanted to show you all these fun photos so you can see some fun faces behind masks.
Congressman Nagoose, could you give us your thoughts, please?
No, just thank you to the Boulder Rotary and everybody in Boulder for showing up for their neighbors and caring for others at this important time. So we appreciate your generosity, and keep giving to each other, keep being kind, and stay hopeful.
President-elect Sally Brown, not a bad 4 days of organization there. Thank you so much.
And join us for next week's program, where Michael Connolly, novelist, TV producer, and one of America's best-selling authors, will be interviewed by his sister, Boulder Rotarian Susan Connolly.
Don't miss it. It's so cool that Jimmy Fallon has all our Rotarians on his show. Say it with me now.
Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend. Most excellent. Thank you so much for doing that before, again, I should say, and we'll look forward to May 9th when we can mask up, glove up, and collect food a second time. So now we're going to go to birthdays and entertainment with Dr. George Russell, who I understand has a little poem for us.
It's taken a lot of courage for me to do things I wish I'd never done. But I'm proud I've learned to laugh at myself and love and respect everyone. I'm on the whiskey side of 60, and I'm on the dimmer side of smart. I'm on the biggest side of humor and the biggest side of heart. I am a lot smarter than I look, and I'm older than I act. I have always thought outside the oval. I'm just off the beaten track. I'm on the ugly side of handsome and the braver side of bold. I'm on the persevering side of effort and the younger side of old. I'm on the loving side of laughter and the giving side of care. I'm on the messy side of neatness and the honest side of fair. I'm on the warmer side of friendly and the believing side of up above. I'm on the generous side of giving and the giving side of love. I've been on the crying side of lonely and the wishing side of hope, the trudging side of uphill and the slippery side of the slope. But I got dreams that keep on growing and a song that fills my heart. And I love my family and my friends, though it's hard we're far apart. I'm on the constant side of loyal, the humble side of pride. You never see me on the fence. I always choose a side. I'm on the dumber side of many. I'm on the smarter side of a few. That's why I'm reading this poem to you, because one of them is you. Thank you. I wrote that about 20 years ago. Well, they're the birthday boys, and be sure and you can call me and you can talk on like John did last week. If you have anything to say on your birthday, it's the one time a year you get to talk.
Thank you very much, George. Before I formally adjourn our meeting, I want to acknowledge one of our guest visitors today, which is Valentine Young, who's one of our exchange students. And he joined us today and did speak earlier, which is great. He is going back to Switzerland next week, as I understand it. And I wanted to wish him a bon voyage from Boulder Rotary Club. Thanks for being here. And we're clapping. Very good, very good. And before I adjourn, there's one other thing I want to say. The UN program, one of the underlying values that we all kept hearing about was democracy. And so I will leave you with a quote that I know Kurt Harris would approve of because it comes from Winston Churchill. It has been said that democracy is the worst form of government except all the others that have been tried. So we're going to get through this. We just have to persevere. And I know we're going to do it because we have been since March 13th when we had to not meet as friends in person. So stay healthy and have a great weekend. Anyone who wants to stick around after I ring this bell to ask a few questions of Bill or our UN presenters, feel free to do so. Meeting adjourned. Wow.
Have a good weekend, John.
Thank you again, Zuza.
Yeah, I thought you did great, Zuza.
Welcome to Jessica.
Welcome, Jessica.
Don't forget to howl.
Thank you for having me.
We're so glad you could join us. Is Sam in Mexico?
Yes.
That's what I thought. ¿Habla español? Dos cervezas. Adios.
Corona.
Okay, well, it looks like we're down to about 28 participants. And I don't know, therefore, if we need to use the chat to record any Q&A. Does somebody have a question for Zuza or for Cynda? I do know we had one. I don't know if Meryl's still on or Bill, because they had some questions from much earlier. Bill Rubin, are you still on?
Bill is no longer on.
I take it by his silence and by Mike's interjection that he's gone. What about Meryl? They had questions. So,
wow.
Yeah.
It's good to see Carl Tinsman and to think about his involvement with the United Nations over the years.
Wave, Carl.
Agree.
Yeah, he did remarkable work. Hi, Carl.
So one of the questions the question that Bill raised and a few others touched on was how does the COVID crisis affect the global peace initiatives that Zuza was addressing?
Do you want me to answer that?
I think so.
Okay. As an example, the World Health Organization is one of the functioning bodies of the United Nations. And the World Health Organization was the first one to basically pronounce the pandemic and say, this is bigger than just something that is happening in Wuhan and in Asia, but it is spreading everywhere. And we need to come together on a global level to look for solutions and try to prevent the spread of it. And as a matter of fact, many other countries, including African nations, already started preparing in the beginning of January for this COVID-19 pandemic. Preparing in the sense of that they were getting teams together, looking at how to how to follow disaster relief and protocols and so on. I mean, that's why, for example, in Germany, all COVID cases were not sent to hospitals, but other public buildings were opened up as, temporary hospitals, like fairgrounds or old airports were converted and for makeshift hospitals to separate infected people automatically right away. As we all know, there's a limited amount of test kits available, but when the test kits were offered to our president rejected them, saying that it was an Asian issue, nothing to do with the United States at the time. And so we are suffering part of those consequences. However, the World Health Organization, again, was on April 6th, came to help the medical workers and frontline workers in New York City, sending them 250,000 face masks to continue their work, because New York became one of the epicenters here locally. Our own government is not helping, is moving things back to the local levels and having people try to deal with the situation on a local level. And it becomes more and more obvious that really without the collaborative efforts of sharing resources and information, we wouldn't really be where we are right now. We're very lucky because if you're looking at the history of pandemics, with the Spanish flu in 1917, and then we also had HIV crisis as well as the Ebola crisis. You know, we could have taken those things more to heart as a nation and prepared health system wise, but it was always relegated to grassroots groups like the Rotary and like small community organizations to take the lead on that. Today, we still get our information from reputable resources that are international, rather than listening to our own national leadership, because we understand that there's a lot of corruption and misinformation happening regarding the crisis. So I don't know if I answered your question, but I think that now more than ever, it is really important to let our elected officials know that we stand, that we believe in international collaboration. And there is a way that you can actually text pound USA for the UN to a phone number, and it's in my slideshow, but I don't know, don't have it here on my screen right now. But we can send that out with an email perhaps, and that will automatically connect you to your elected officials and send them a message that you believe that that is important, and you will receive a text message back. Yes, okay, thank you. Text pound USA for UN to 738-674. And so that's a big action that you can take at this moment. And I think having more of these consultations to actually find the common denominator that we have, perhaps with other organizations or with other groups that we're working with. Because when we bring minds together, we create innovation, and we also create a focus that is really important nowadays to have, because we get too easily distracted with meaningless things sometimes.
I wonder, I'd like to ask if Cynda wouldn't mind sharing what her personal involvement with the UN has been, as well as saying something about Dorothy's and maybe Carl's, if you could get just for the record, because we have incredible Boulder Rotarian connection to the UN.
Yeah, we do indeed. You know, the Carl's work with polio. Dorothy was present at the 1995 Convention on Women, and that out of that came so many things that have continued to grow, and it's part of this larger movement that, you know, focuses on bringing women forward. Going back to the COVID thing is that they find that the 5 countries that have managed this the best have been led by women. And that's part of what women are able to bring to the table, is this broader look at the needs of the community and understanding multiple perspectives and bringing it together. So, you know, that showed up as one of the highlights. What I'm finding in conversations with many of the women grassroots leaders in different parts of the country, in Afghanistan, Yemen, Sudan, is that they are the ones now taking the lead in their countries on education, because they don't have these services that we've got to inform people about the virus and what to do. So, and then of course at the same time, their sources of funding are drying up. So, you know, it puts an added burden on what they're doing. But going back to this particular Rotary Club, that, yeah, the work that Dorothy did early, you know, has just been essential in a lot of the things that have come out of it. And then as far as my role, Secure World Foundation is a permanent observer status with the UN, and we participate with the Committee on the Peaceful Use of Outer Space and also the Committee on Disarmament in bringing forward various space issues. We're able to convene meetings on the side. So there are lots of opportunities to participate as an organization as well as individuals. So as Zuza said, part of it is just sending in getting your voice out there and informing them.
Thank you for your work, Cynda.
Yes, indeed. Do we have any other questions?
I think one of the other questions that did come up in the chat was the importance of the role of youth. And I think that's what we're seeing all over the world. Zuza, can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, I can talk more about this. I'm sorry. Oops, I wanted to, yeah. Yes, I can, of course, I can talk more about this. I agree that youth is actually one of the cornerstones for these UN conversations or consultations, because really for us older people, it is harder to envision, you know, 25 years from now. How active will we be able to be? I mean, we can envision something for our grandchildren, but the importance is that young people that grow up, and then it doesn't matter how old they are. Literally, I think you can even do this consultation with elementary school kids to ask them what they think is the most important, and that should be part of what should inspire us and motivate us to get on the bandwagon, because they're the ones that will continue, rather than us prescribing. And perhaps we have a limited vision because we say, oh, these things don't have, this is too hard to do. Like I saw very few people actually marking that corruption and money is a big issue. And I think here in this country in particular, and perhaps worldwide, it's one of the biggest issues. I think if we would remove the corruption and money from politics, I think a lot of things actually would look much better than they are looking right now on a global level. But I think most people say, oh, this is too big to take on. While with other issues, we believe perhaps we can do something about it. But asking children and youth for envisioning something that they want to see when they're grown up, I think is a very simple thing for them to do, and should be for us literally an advisory. And I invite really everybody, if you work with youth, or you know a group that I can work with, I would love to do this and adopt it in such a way that it is in consultation with them, because those are the voices that we hardly ever hear. They're not old enough to vote yet, but we're deciding upon their future.
I think that the work that Rotary does with RILA is just such a good example of helping to train these youth. And the peace book that the fourth graders wrote is just amazing. I mean, to read it and to see wisdom that they have at that age. And then coming forward, we're looking now at a possible grant to a group called Natural Highs, and listening to some of these teens talk about their lives and what they want to have out of it. It's really quite remarkable.
With both Cynda and Dorothy here, is our Rotarian Action Group for Peace a vehicle for mediating some of the information that we have about the World Health Organization and about advocating for our place in relation to these international agencies that are being somewhat questioned and even undermined?
I think that's a great question. And, it also calls forth that idea of, as Rotary, we are part of an international organization. And so, how do we show up with a greater awareness of the whole community, in addition to our local community that we do so well? I'm not sure. I mean, this is the kind of discussions that are going on, and we need to have more of. What role can Rotary play in getting some of that information out?
Maybe at our next Peace Builders Committee meeting, we can vote on sending a message to our elected representatives to promote supporting all these UN things, and especially WHO now, just as a voice that I'm sure they're personally committed to that, but they can reflect that the Rotary Club of Boulder is asking them to do that. That might be an action we can take as a committee.
Dorothy, you got anything to say? You need to unmute yourself.
I've got lots to say. I have really found it a wonderful program, something I desperately, personally needed. I'm feeling really helpless, and I appreciated what was said. I think that I've tried my best actually in the last few weeks to think about how to support and be more direct on the WHO and the way it's been, I think, abused. So I don't know if Rotary as a group would take a position by just sending a message to them to what some of our beliefs are. I don't know, I'd like to find something to show that we really, at least I'm really worried about where we are in this world right now. So good.
When I fill out the form for the global consultation that the Peace Building Committee held, I will certainly include some of this, this ideas we just talked about about the importance of that.
The other thing that I wanted to mention is, especially for elected officials, they pay a lot of attention to op-eds in newspapers. And that way you actually get even more visibility. If the Rotary Club would be, wants to have a big impact, is perhaps share the work that you do and how you see it connected and how important you believe this international and global collaboration is at, within this whole global health crisis, that we really, right now, we're actually the ones more in need than many other places. And we're not just the caretakers and saviors of others, but we need to save ourselves from our own government, and asking others in some ways to, hey, look, we're just normal people. We're not on the same bandwagon. And for somebody that tells us that we should drink chlorine to get rid of the to get rid of the virus, and I mean, really ridiculous things. But I mean, there are plenty of people that will not vet this information correctly, and having a little op-ed and sharing some of the work that has been done from your club and the involvement, and that you see this as perhaps a whole hopeful flame that needs to be carried on, and not only through the Olympics, but that it's something that we can all champion in our own ways, as long as we keep within the same spirit. It's a spiritual thing to collaborate. It's a spiritual thing to think about peace.
And very helpful thought. Thank you, Zuza. Thank you, Randy, for overall.
Oh, you're welcome, Bob. I was well schooled on this one, so I really appreciate our committee, and especially Gary and Zuza and Cynda for putting all this together. They did the lion's share of the work.
Yes, yes.
And John,
yeah, from a technical standpoint, this was more challenging, and I think we pulled it off quite well.
Yeah. Oh, and if I had my hat on, I'd be doffing it to Fred Hull. Hats off to Fred Hull.
Yes.
You're amazing, Fred.
Fred was great.
Oh, there's Fred. Yeah.
He makes it all work.
Yep.
All right.
Made it work.
Let's totally adjourn now.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we got to let you go back to work. You might actually have some work to do.
A little. A little.
Well, thank you all.
Take care.
For inviting me.
Thank you all.
This was good, everybody. Thank you.